And you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Art Tatum, his biography, and best hits. During this summer, we're going to be talking about more of his best albums of all time. Here's a quick recap of what's coming up. We're starting things off with Solo Masterpieces Volume 1. Late career Tatum is still shredding the laws of physics. From a spellbinding Someone to Watch Over Me to the mythic jaw-dropper Tiger Egg, every track is a masterclass in how did he just do that. Then switch the scene to Tatum plus Ben Webster in the Tatum Group Masterpieces. Webster brings the velvet sax, Tatum brings lightning in a bottle, and together they create pure late-night alchemy. It's a conversation between giants, respectful, soulful, and thrilling. Finally, Tatum, Lionel Hampton, and Buddy Rich. How High the Moon, This Can't Be Love, musicians pushing each other higher and higher. 3 albums, 1 legend, endless goosebumps. And that was some insight into what's coming up during the summer, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Art Tatum, his biography, and best hits. During this summer, we're going to be talking about more of his best albums of all time. The first one's called Art Tatum's Solo Masterpieces Volume 1. So when you see the word solo on a Tatum album title, buckle your seatbelt because this isn't just a guy playing alone. This is a symphony contained inside 2 hands. This first volume of Solo Masterpieces, recorded in the 1950s, captures Tatum towards the end of his life, but you'd never know he was slowing down. He runs sprints across the keyboard with the agility of a ballet dancer and the density of a full orchestra. Listen to his version of Someone to Watch Over Me, a song that could easily melt into softness. Instead it becomes a cathedral of harmony. Every chord is stretched, inverted, ornamented, taken to the edge of tonality but never falling off. And then there's Tiger Egg. This performance became the stuff of jazz mythology. Critics say he was too fast, too ornate. Other pianists joke that Tatum must be 3 people at the keyboard all at once. But here's the heart of the matter. Behind all the fireworks, Tatum injects a deep sentimentality. These aren't just athletic displays, he's retelling American standards as a grand personal statement. The next album is called the Tatum Group Masterpieces with Ben Webster. So now we switch gears. Tatum isn't always alone, and when he chooses collaborators, he chooses giants. Cue saxophone legend Ben Webster. This is the moment where unstoppable force meets velvet elegance. Webster's tenor saxophone is basically liquid smoke, slow, emotional, rich enough to spread on toast. On the other side, you've got Tatum, whose fingers are darting and dancing like electricity. You think they might clash, but something miraculous happens. They give each other space. Check out the song All the Things You Are. Ben Webster lays out the melody with long, breathy strokes. Tatum paints around him like moonlight flickering on water. His accompaniment alone would make most pianists' careers. Even when he solos, it's like he's walking along the edge of the melody, but never pushing Webster out of the spotlight. Then there's Gone with the Wind. Not a song that usually turns heads, but Tatum turns it into a showstopper. He takes the harmony on a joyride, reshaping familiar progressions into a puzzle that only he knows how to fit. So this album is a conversation. 2 masters trading lines, teasing each other, holding the tension and releasing it like only jazz can. The next one's called the Tatum Group Masterpieces with Lionel Hampton and Buddy Rich. So time to buckle up again. Put Lionel Hampton on vibraphone and Buddy Rich on drums with Tatum steering on the ship, and you get an album that's absolutely not safe for weak hearts. Buddy Rich is a drummer who never holds back. Hampton is a melodic machine, bright, ringing, relentless. Yet somehow this band swings like a runway train that's thrilled to be off the tracks. For example, the track How High the Moon becomes a contest of who can push the groove harder. Tatum's comping behind vibes is a crash course in harmonic play. Then This Can't Be Love. It's tight and joyful. You can almost hear them grinning at each other across the studio. So this album captures what jazz is when it's alive, not written down, not polished, but dangerously fun. And these are the nights musicians talk about decades later. And there was some insight into more of Art Tatum's best albums of all time, and this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashanti Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Art Tatum, his biography, and best hits. Now it's time for some trending music news. Gregory Golub has just released his 3rd original jazz album, African and Other Jazz Passions, and critics are already calling it a stimulating listen from an inventive musician who's well worth discovering. Golub has always walked his own path. He started teaching himself piano at 12, won early recognition for his writing at Russian jazz festivals, and has since grown into a pianist, keyboardist, arranger, poet, and philosopher. And this new record pulls all that into one vivid musical universe. So the album delivers 12 original compositions built around Golub's signature sound. Electric piano intertwined with acoustic piano, layered with adventurous electronic textures, sometimes even his own voice woven in as an instrument. From the thoughtful and funky opener, African Passions, to the bustling energy of Toledo, to the catchy Hasidic melody, and the Spanish colors of Hispana, every track explores a different corner of Golub's imagination. There's vibraphone-tinged speed on Other Time and Passion Sing, Latin fire on Latino Smile, introspection on Not Knowing What the Future Holds, and pure joy on the closing pieces of Oriental Jazz and Hallelujah. Gregory Golub's African and Other Jazz Passions, a colorful, unpredictable journey from a musician carving out his own sonic world. And there was some trendy music news on the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. We're going for a short break, we'll be right back after that. When we come back, we're going to be talking about some of Art Tatum's best albums of all time. Stay tuned. And you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Art Tatum, his biography and best hits. During this summer, we're going to be talking about more of his best albums of all time. Here's a quick recap of what's coming up. First up, Piano Starts Here. Early recordings from the 30s and 40s that changed everything. T for two, three pianists, one body, walking bass, melodies dancing overhead. And the legendary Tiger Egg, Tatum wasn't just showing off, he was rewriting the rules. Next up, The Genius of Art Tatum, released in 1950. Willow Weep for Me becomes a cathedral. Stardust sparkles like a galaxy under his fingers. Emotional, dazzling, transformative. Finally, Tatum Group Masterpieces Volume 2. Small group magic with horns and rhythm. Stormy weather smolders. Tatum teasers, response, and ballads like If remind us that virtuosity can whisper, not just roar. So 3 albums, 1 summit. And you're tuned into the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Art Tatum, his biography and best hits. During this summer, we're going to be talking about more of his best albums of all time. So we've seen the soul of wizardry, the duels with giants, the fire and finesse, and now we uncover the recordings that reveal how myth was made. The first one's called Piano Starts Here, released in 1949. If you ever want to convert someone into a Tatum believer, start here. A set that includes some of the earliest Tatum recordings from the 1930s and 40s. The opener, T for Two, is a watershed moment. You can practically hear the jaws of every pianist in 1933 hit the floor. He plays like he's reinventing new fingers. Melody in the middle, walking bass underneath, fireworks dancing over the top. 3 pianists all at once, one body, a miracle and a provocation. His take on Tiger Egg, this is the performance that became legendary. But the secret sauce, Tatum isn't just showing off. Listen to sophisticated leading, the pedal control, the stretched harmonies, the emotional weight. He turns Duke Ellington's elegance into something cosmic. The second one's called The Genius of Art Tatum, released in 1950. By the time we get to this release, Tatum wasn't just proving himself anymore, he was teaching the world what excellence sounds like. The Genius of Art Tatum is all about interpretation as transformation. He doesn't just play it here, he rebuilds it as a cathedral. Take Willow Weep for me. Most versions are soft and wistful. Tatum approaches it like a sculptor. The intro tricks into your ear. The chord changes shape under your feet. The melody blossoms unexpectedly. And then there's Stardust. Other pianists glide through it. Tatum walks the galaxy instead. Every note sparkles like he's dusting the keys with starlight. It's a love letter written with mathematics and intuition locked together. And finally, the Tatum Group Masterpieces Volume 2, released in 1954. So imagine a group session where somehow everyone keeps up with Art Tatum. This volume features some of the best small group interplay of Tatum's late era. One standout, Stormy Weather. You get that slow burn blue smoke from the horns, and then Tatum steps in with punchy frills, answering, teasing, tugging the groove into a dance. He doesn't overpower, though he could anytime he wants to. Instead, he provokes greatness from the ensemble. And the song If. A ballad so tender you forget Tatum is the guy who used to turn tempos into roller coasters. He relaxes into this tune with elegance. And this record gives you something that the solo albums don't. Tatum listening, reacting, laughing with the music. The joy is contagious. So across these 3 albums, one truth keeps emerging. Art Tatum expanded what the piano was allowed to be. His technique unmatched. His harmony ahead of its time. His imagination bottomless. Long after his era, musicians still study his touch, his voicings, his rhythmic mischief. And this is the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. On this week's episode, it's about Art Tatum, his biography and best hits. We've come to an end of this week's episode of the Jazz Update, so now it's time to recap what we were discussing on today's show. So Art Tatum was a pianist who didn't just change jazz, he changed what humans thought was possible at the keyboard. If there ever was a musician who sounded supernatural, it was Art Tatum. So Tatum was born in 1909 in Toledo, Ohio, legally blind from childhood, and yet he developed one of the sharpest musical ears in history. He taught himself by absorbing classical music, stride piano and pop tunes, inspired by Fats Waller and Lee Sims. And by the early 1930s, he was already leaving veteran pianists stunned. His speed, his reharmonizations, those cascading right-hand runs, it was like watching a magician perform card tricks. And that legacy, every modern jazz pianist, Monk, Oscar Peterson, Bud Powell, they didn't just admire Tatum, they idolized him. So if you're diving into Tatum for the very first time, here are 5 essentials. Start with the Art Tatum solo masterpieces, 8 volumes of pure solo brilliance. Then Piano Starts Here, showcasing those legendary 1933 and 1949 performances. The group masterpieces reveal how sensitive he played with giants like Ben Webster. 20th century piano genius gives you rare gems of his technique and lyricism. And that was a quick recap of everything that we discussed on this week's episode of the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan De Silva. And on that note, we've come to an end of this week's episode of the Jazz Update. Don't forget, you can check out the archives of today's show on my YouTube channel, the Weekend Jazz Update with Jashan. So I'll see you again next week. Have a great week ahead.